Welcome everyone to tonight's rededication ceremony. We would like to start with the presentation of the colors. We're pleased to welcome the United States Air Force Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst Honor Guard. Please stand for the presentation of the colors. Please stay standing and join us for the national anthem. You can take your seats. Tonight's program begins with the Kano Quartet. It's made up of 3 recent Yale graduates, Giacomo Glatzer, Dylan Fernandez de Lara, Samhita Jasulu, and Alexandra Hong from Princeton, all of whom graduated in 2023. How fitting that that one of our musicians is a Princeton graduate. From 1917 to 1922, because of the U.S.'s entry into the war, the Princeton Club put off building their own clubhouse on Park Avenue and joined us here at the Yale Club, including 5 members from the Princeton Club who lived here at the Yale Club. Tonight, they will be performing Barber's Adagio for Strings. The images you'll see behind them are the 40 members who lost their lives as a result of the Great War.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you all to the Yale Club of New York. I'm Sonny Chu, the president of the club, and we're honored to have so many of you join us here tonight for this historic evening. As I look around, I see many men and women from our armed forces who have graciously joined us this evening. So, you've all beaten me to the punchline, but I would like to personally thank them and maybe once again take a minute to appreciate and express our gratitude for their service to our country. As early as 1919, the members of the Yale Club of New York City recognized the need for a memorial to those who fought in the Great War. They also realized that there were still members who were suffering and dying from injury and illness that they sustained during the war, and that it was also too soon to start the work of creating a permanent memorial. At last, in early 1924, work began in earnest to collect the names of the members who had died as a result of the war. The 40 members whose names are engraved on our war memorial are also names that are engraved on the war memorial on Yale's campus in Beinecke Plaza. 100 years ago tonight, family and friends of these men, as well as their peers, gathered in this very room to honor the courage and commitment that these men showed during the war. And so I think it's obviously very fitting for us to gather again in this space to reflect on their sacrifice and to rededicate the memorial that hangs where it has hung for the last century, on the wall directly across from the top of the stairs. I'd like to conclude by inviting Professor Paul Kennedy on the stage to share some remarks with us about memorializing our war dead. Professor Kennedy is the J. Richardson Dilworth Professor of History at Yale, where he lectures in his numerous specialties, which include military and naval history, as well as great power relations in the 19th and 20th centuries. So please join me in welcoming Professor Kennedy, and thank you all again.
Ladies and gentlemen, what an honor it is for me to be here with you this evening. As some of you know, I've taught at Yale for many years, including teaching of military history and the history of the First World War. And on some occasions, I have come down to this Yale Club and enjoyed myself as a member of this club as a basis for going to the opera, which I enjoyed a couple of nights ago, the Magic Flute. But this event tonight is something kind of different. It's got an emotional tug to it. It's got a specialness to it for the history of Yale and the history of this Yale Club. I want to make as my main remark, though, an expression of gratitude at the remarkable insight, dedication, diligence, persistence of Carolyn Bartels, who, thank you, Carolyn, who had kept walking past this memorial plaque, noticing that we were getting ever and ever closer to the 100th anniversary of when it was unveiled here in the year 1924, and wondering what the backstory was, why it was not done earlier, who the names were, how the research was done to discover which of the 40 names of young Yaleys could be researched and put on this wall plaque. The naming of the creation of names on wall plaques, ladies and gentlemen, I think was not very frequently done before the 19th century. There were all sorts of war memorials to some great leader, some great man of a village, some owner of the estate, some other dignified and higher person. But maybe it was started in the aftermath of the US Civil War, I don't know, but it's fairly recent that communities decided to have lists of the fallen, dead of a previous conflict put in their church or in a memorial, testimonial sort of edifice outside the church. But the idea that we were going to have something in this already historic Yale Club commemorating the names and listing the names of the young men of the classes. You saw some of the classes, ladies and gentlemen, the class of 1910, one earlier one in the 19th century itself, one very recent one. Did you spot that one of the names had the year class of 1915 against it? So that person, that young man must have come out of graduation, maybe had a year or two in a job somewhere, and then volunteered or been conscripted when the war came to go and fight, chiefly on the Western Front. War memorials, I've become something of a private little passion of mine, ladies and gentlemen. I can't help noticing that if you are visiting different parts of Europe, understandably, maybe because of the incredible casualties which occurred from village to village and town to town, you see names on a plaque either outside the church, outside the public, the town hall. This is a way of listing the dead of that village. So it was interesting to me that when Caroline approached me and said, we're coming up to the 100th anniversary of the unveiling of a plaque in this Yale Club, which would list the members of the club who had gone on to fight and, I believe, die of their wounds afterwards in the war itself. Shouldn't we do something about it? Shouldn't there be a rededication? Shouldn't there be a rememorialization? And I thought, wow, Caroline, what a terrific initiative on your part. I know that some of you here are descended from that member of the family who passed away, some great uncle passed away in the war itself. I know that others have come here because of a variety of associations. So it's quite a pleasure for me and quite an honor to be asked to speak tonight. No, I didn't stumble across getting up because of a war wound of my own, ladies and gentlemen. Put it down to childhood polio if you want, but nothing more than that. This is a place with a lot of history of its own and its social history, its cultural history, but the very idea that there were members of this Yale Club way back in the years 1917 to 1918 who responded to the recruitment and went off and fought in the war and perished in that war is to me really quite a remarkable tribute to what was going on there in terms of responding by the youth of this nation to a great giant conflict for democracy, for world order, for a number of other aims which were going to be proclaimed more fluently by Woodrow Wilson and Lloyd George and others. And so I'm pleased to be like the local historian or the tame historian tonight to say this is a special event for the club. I'm pleased that the club was able to put on such an event, to put on the welcoming by the president. And I'm truly, truly delighted that my colleague and fellow of Davenport College, Jake Hidlin, is going to be playing some contemporary, some music of the time with his small group to entertain us. So you have, if you like, the scholarship or the erudition on the one hand, and you have the entertainment and the music and the spectacle on the other hand, and you have a momentous historic unveiling of something quite important. So thank you for your attention, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for coming out in your numbers. And let's get on with more of the evening. Thank you so much.
As Paul just mentioned, our next guest is Professor Jay Gitlin. He's joined this evening by the ragtime duo Miss Maybell and Charlie Judkin. Professor Gitlin is a senior lecturer in history and associate director of the Howard R. Lamar Center for the Study of Frontier and Borders. Professor Gitlin teaches courses on Yale in America, Quebec, and Canada, and with Professor Kennedy, a class on ports, cities, and empires. He's also a member of the Urban Studies faculty. He's going to be taking us through some of the music of the home front and the battlefront tonight. Jay?
Well, thank you all. Thanks, Caroline. She's amazing, I have to just say. And thank you also to Sunny Chu, who has just been such a wonderful president of this club. Now, I can't resist noting that Paul was here for the erudition, and I'm here for the entertainment. And it's fair to say that when I see my students at the beginning of the semester, I said, just so you know in advance, if you're looking for gravitas, you're in the wrong room. So I'd like to begin with a few general comments. At the end of the 19th century, and certainly into the 1920s, a very thin line separated popular music and military music. Especially in North America and Great Britain, marching bands were all the rage. Every town in New England and the Midwest had its own band, and very likely had built a bandstand to mark the center of its public life and space. Patrick Gilmore, an Irish immigrant to Boston, was the most famous band leader in the middle decades of the 19th century, and he was followed by John Philip Sousa, the leader of the U.S. Marine Band in the 1880s. And in 1892, Sousa, the leader of that band, began his own band and toured the U.S. and Europe. Now, to understand, bands played marches, but they also played waltzes, polkas, and even cakewalks. So couples would stroll or promenade around the bandstands to this music, and that is the beginning of public social music dancing in America, the prom of course, comes from the word promenade. So they would promenade around to these bands. So that's point number one. The music you will soon be hearing easily crossed the thin boundary between functions. But here's the corollary. Music, I would argue, is the most social of the arts. One of its primary functions is to unite us in time. Music creates a sense of time that both exists within clock time and yet is distinct. It's what we call a tempo. And that tempo we feel together either as couples dancing or as regiments marching. That's what music does. And one last general observation, although we hear music with our ears and often play it with our fingers, the organ associated with music is the heart. It is the heart that records feelings, that keeps both music and memories. The Latin word for heart, cor, cor, gives us both the words record or record and courage. It is music, then, that can most effectively bring us back to an earlier period of time, and how appropriate that we use music today to remember these courageous young men. So our first song to be played by Miss Mabel and Charlie is A Long Way to Tipperary. It was an English music hall song first performed in 1912 by Jack Judge, written by Judge and Harry Williams. The song was originally written as a lament from an Irish worker in London, missing his homeland. Unlike popular songs of previous wars, it did not incite soldiers to glorious deeds, instead concentrating on the sense of longing and nostalgia. It was already a music hall hit in 1913 and then became a worldwide hit in 1914 when it was recorded by the famous Irish tenor John McCormack. It then took on a new life as a marching song among soldiers in World War I when Daily Mail correspondent George Curnock saw the Irish regiment, the Connaught Rangers, singing this song as they marched along Boulogne in August of 1914, and soon every British newspaper had printed the lyrics to the chorus. It became a popular and patriotic tune, especially among civilians. Soldiers lost their optimism after a few months at the front. And I'll just mention, since I teach Canadian history as well, the song was also used as the second part of the regimental march of Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry, a regiment formed in 1914 and named for Princess Patricia of Connaught, the daughter of the Governor General of Canada at the time. And now, A Long Way to Tipperary.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
It's a long way to Tipperary. It's a long way to go. It's a long way to Tipperary, to the sweetest girl I know. Goodbye, Piccadilly, so long, Leicester Square, for it's a long, long way to Tipperary, but my heart's right there. It's a long way to Tipperary, it's a long way to go. It's a long way to Tipperary, to the sweetest girl I know. Goodbye, Piccadilly, oh, so long, Leicester Square, for it's a long, long way to Tipperary, but my heart's right there.
Now, unlike It's a Long Way to Tipperary, The next song, Over There, had no melancholy aspect. The English song was a wistful ballad in its original incarnation. Over There, by way of contrast, was a bit of American bluster, full of enthusiasm, confidence, and patriotism. Both songs were written by professional songwriters and vaudevillians. The American song by the world-famous entertainer George M. Cohan, who, true to the song he wrote, was in fact born on the 4th of July to a show business family from Providence, Rhode Island. Cohan wrote Over There in 1917, and the song's rhythm, as you will hear, was based on a 3-note bugle chord. Ba-ba-bum. President Woodrow Wilson described it as, quote, a genuine inspiration to all American manhood, exclaiming that the Yanks are coming and suggesting that the war would soon be won once Americans arrived. The song was popular with the civilian population, again, less popular with the soldiers. My dad was born in 1918, and he told me that this was the first song he ever heard and learned, and he remembered hearing it sung by everyone when the returning veterans marched down the main street of his hometown. So here is a little George M. Cohan.
Let me count it.
Johnny, get your gun, get your gun, get your gun. Take it on the run, on the run, on the run. Hear them calling you and me, every son of liberty. Hurry right away, no delay, go today. Make your daddy glad to have had such a lad. Tell your sweetheart not to pine, to be proud her boys in line. Over there, over there, spread the word over there, that the Yanks are coming, the Yanks are coming, the drums rum-tumming everywhere. So prepare, say a prayer, spread the word to be there. We'll be over, we're coming over, and we won't come back till it's over, over there. Ah-ho. No, we won't come back till it's over, over there.
Fabulous. I see we have enough time, so I'm going to keep these next two songs. So we're going to do snippets of the next two songs. Again, these are American songs. The first one is How You Gonna Keep Them Down on the Farm After They've Seen Paris. The theme of this song is obvious from the title. It was written by Walter Donaldson, who also wrote Makin' Whoopee and My Blue Heaven. And Donaldson himself had served in the war. I'll just mention briefly, it was a favorite piece of Jim Europe's 369th Infantry Band. James Reese Europe was an important early ragtime and jazz bandleader and a pioneer in the history of black music, so it was his favorite war song. He was a songwriter and pianist Eubie Blake actually called him, quote, the Martin Luther King of music. And I'll introduce both songs so you guys can do them both together.
That sounds good.
So the next song, they'll do a little piece of a song called Goodbye Broadway, Hello France. You get the theme here. It was written in 1917 by a vaudevillian songwriter named Billy Basquette, one of a number of songs referred to as the goodbye songs. The sadness of saying goodbye was outweighed by the somewhat eager and self-assured desire to defeat the Germans and lend the helping hand to France. After all, France had provided aid during the American Revolution. Many songs, including this one, refer to our debt to Lafayette, and I'll read you this line. It says, France sent us a soldier, brave Lafayette, whose deeds and fame we cannot forget. Now that we have the chance, we will pay our debt to France. And many songs talk about this. Of course, they also, and I can't resist telling you this, describe the possibility of encountering the beauties of France, including this song which I brought to show you. It's called Oui Oui, Marie.
Oh, look at that.
So with that, we'll hear both of these songs.
Oh, how you gonna keep 'em down on the farm after they've seen Paris? Oh, how you gonna keep 'em away from Broadway, chasing around and painting the town? Oh, how you gonna keep 'em away from harm? That's a mystery. Well, they'll never want to see a rake or a plow, and who the deuce can parlez-vous a cow? Oh, how you gonna keep 'em down on the farm after they've seen Paris? Goodbye, Broadway, hello, friends. We're 10 million strong. Goodbye, sweethearts, wives, and mothers. It won't take us long. Don't you worry while we're there. We're fighting for. So goodbye, Broadway, hello, friends. We're gonna help you win this war. So goodbye, Broadway, hello, friends. We're gonna help you win this war.
We're going now to go back to the English side of the music. In this next song, Pack Up Your Troubles in Your Old Kit Bag. Unlike many of the American songs from World War I, the English songs had little bluster, overconfidence, or sense of adventure. Rather, the English tended to express a sense of war weariness balanced by resignation. That was perfectly expressed in this following song. Quite similar rhythmically, harmonically, and melodically to Long Way to Tipperary, the two songs were often put together as a medley by marching bands. Written by two Welsh brothers, George and Felix Powell, the song was published in 1915 in London and inspired three later war comedy films, the first being, and I watched it this week, Pack Up Your Troubles from 1932, starring Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy. And it told the story of two inept soldiers who attempt, after the war, to rescue the young daughter, now an orphan, of their friend who had died in combat. So with that,
All right, pack up your troubles in your old kit bag.
Pack up your troubles in your old kit bag and smile, smile, smile. While you've a Lucifer to light your fag, smile, boys, that's the style. Oh, what's the use of worrying? It never was worthwhile. So pack up your troubles in your old kit bag and smile, smile, smile.
Thank you.
they are just great, aren't they? They just struck the right charm. Now, ladies and gentlemen, they're going to do one last song, but then we're going to all come back later, and I will lead all of you in singing Bright College Years. So that we'll do later. But for our last song for this part, this song is There's a Long, Long Trail. And it was written by two Yale College students who both later served during the war, but they wrote it when one was a junior and one was a senior. The song speaks both to the dreams of home and the values of determination and dignity shared by soldiers from Yale, Canada, and the UK, distinct groups, all of which in their own ways operated within a discourse of Britishness. Roommates Alonzo Elliott, known as Zoe, and Stoddard King wrote the song in 1913. According to Yale music librarian who has done the research on this, Suzanne Lovejoy, they played it for the first time at a Zeta Psi banquet in Boston. After graduation, Zoe Elliott attended Trinity College, Cambridge. The song was published the following year in London. Elliott recalled that the song first attracted attention when, quote, a boatload of Canadian soldiers sang it coming down the Thames from a Sunday outing. According to Lovejoy, it was picked up by others, and British Tommies marched off to war with it and sang it constantly. This song, along with Tipperary, were said to be the two favorites. Lovejoy also recounts, and she did look this up, that the English poet, and I'm quoting her now, the English poet John Masefield, in his acceptance speech for an honorary doctorate awarded by Yale in June 1918, said the following, and I quote from Masefield, "One day during the Battle of the Somme, I passed down one sector of the British line. The boys were singing, and they were singing a song written by a Yale man. There's a long, long trail a-winding to the land of my dreams. That," he said to the audience that day in New Haven, "is the most popular song in the British Army today." The most eloquent testimony about the use of the song and music in general came from a lieutenant named Coningsby Dawson, an Englishman serving in the Canadian Field Artillery. In a letter from the front, dated October 18th, 1916, he wrote, quote, "We've fallen into the habit of singing in parts. Our greatest favorite is one which is symbolizing the hopes that are in so many hearts on this greatest battlefield in history. We sing it under shell fire as a kind of prayer. We sing it as we struggle knee-deep in the appalling mud. We sing it as we sit by a candle in our deep-captured German dugouts. It runs like this."
There's a long, long trail a-winding into the land of my dreams, where the nightingales are singing and the white moon beams. There's a long, long night of waiting until my dreams all come true, till the day when I'll be going down the long, long trail with you. Till the day when I'll be going down the long, long trail with you.
So I want to thank everyone tonight for coming and everyone who was on this stage, Jay, Paul, Ms. Maybell, and Charlie, our wonderful quartet, Sonny. I want to thank you all for being part of tonight. One of the things I'm going to encourage you all to do is to stop by the library. There's a 2-case display that actually shows you much more about the 40 men who died during the war. Sadly, of the 40, more died of disease, influenza, pneumonia and meningitis and died in battle. And it's just a really hard thing to read about. But there's beautiful memorials written in the book, Yale in the World War. Went online, found a bunch of stuff. I do want to thank Andrea Dorfman from the Library Committee, who it would not have been possible to find all those 40 men. I want to thank Jack Denning, the new activities manager, who was really helpful in doing things like the program that's in your hand. Part of this evening came about because in going through the archives, I came across the original printing pages that went off to the printer. I had seen the program in a scrapbook, but it had been glued into the scrapbook, so I didn't know what the full program was. And then I came across those printing pages, and that's when I realized December 6, 1924, I was like, we have to do this. So I'm so glad to the Activities Committee, Will, thank you, for making this possible tonight. I want to give a shout out to Jean Wu and the Yale Club Military and Clandestine, I'm totally getting that name wrong, group. Jean was really instrumental in putting me in contact with the military for the honor guard and for the taps that we're going to have at the end of this. So thank you so much, Jean. And a final thank you goes out to the Nelson family who are with us tonight. They've made a contribution to the club that made so much of tonight possible. And it's in honor of Tom Nelson's 50 years of membership and commitment to the Yale Club. So Tom, thank you. So we're way ahead of schedule, but I'm going to invite Jay back up here to lead everybody in Bright College Years. I figured you know it, so I didn't print out the words. And then after that, we'll close the evening out as they did 100 years ago with taps. So thank you, guys.
Okay, everybody.
Shall we sit or stand? What do you think? I think we should stand. Here's your cue. Da da, bright college years. Okay, are we ready? Bright college years with pleasure rife, the shortest, gladdest years of life. How swiftly are ye gliding by? Oh, why the time so quickly fly? The seasons come, the seasons go. The earth is green or white with snow. But time and change shall not avail to break the friendships formed at Yale. In after years should troubles rise to cloud the blue of sunny skies, bright will sing through memory's haze those happy golden bygone days. Oh, let us strive that ever we may let these words our watch cry be, where'er upon life's sea we sail, for God, for a country, and forever.
just say very quickly, thank you all once again for coming. It's been a wonderful evening. We have some great events in the spring, in the January and onwards. Look up for the new member event, New Year members event in January, early January, and some great lectures and parties and the like for 2025. And thank you again for coming, and wish you all a happy holidays and happy New Year.